Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to install your own HANA Cockpit system on your local laptop computer using WSL, which is a very lightweight Linux based alternative for a virtual machine environment. And I'll show you the easy steps. If you just follow, you'll be able to get it done in no time. Let's start by looking at what available WSL images we have that we can use. And we can do this by running WSL list online. And the version that we are going to use is OpenSUSE Linux Enterprise 15 Support Stack 6. To install this version, we can simply run WSL --install, and we can copy by highlighting this portion of the name, copy the name, and simply right click to paste and press enter to start the installation procedure. From here, we can simply use our Alt on our keyboard to access these menu items, like Alt N will issue the next statement. So I'm going to press Alt N. I'll press Alt A for agree, and then Alt N again for next. I can give my user a full name and press tab to go down to password. And I'm just going to use the simplistic password, which is Linux all lowercase for now, because it's just a demo environment. And I'll press Alt N and Alt yes to confirm that I'm going to use a simple password. From here, we can press Alt T to ensure that we install the WSL system pattern. Very important that we need the systemd pattern to be installed as well. So we'll press Alt N for next. Now we need to register our system. To register the system, we can simply Google /download. From here, you can click the SUSE Enterprise Linux link, select your version of SUSE, and register your Linux for free updates. Once we entered our details for our user, we can simply press the next button, and it will then automatically ask you if you want to update your repositories. We'll just press Alt Y to update our repositories. We're not going to select any additional repositories here or any extensions or modules or whatever, so we'll just press Alt N to continue. After some time has passed, a couple of minutes, your installation will be done. You can then simply press Alt F to finish the process. And we now have a successful installation, and we're already logged into this installation as well. Just a couple of quick things to note. While I'm already logged in with my admin user, if I type in exit, it locks me out of this installation. And if I then check the installation, WSL -L -V, I can see that it is currently running, but it's already shutting down. Every time you log in, it starts up. Every time you exit, so you type exit from it, it shuts down. So that's just an important note to be wary of. Let's just have a look here again. There we can see it already stopped. To log in or log back in again, you can just simply type WSL -D, copy the name, press enter, and it will start it up again, and it will then automatically log you in. Not sure if I stated it earlier on, but I'd recommend that you need PowerShell started in administrative mode before you start. Later, I'm also going to install a small version of the HANA Express database on its own WSL image, and I'll show you how you can run both concurrently on the same machine to test and play around a bit. But in order for that to work, my SUSE Linux Enterprise Server 15 support package stack 6 image that we're using for our HANA Cockpit would need to have its own host name. So we're going to change that host name now. The first thing that we need to check is the systemd currently running? I'm just going to press clear or type clear here. Clear just clears the screen, and we can then type systemctl is system running, and it says that it is running. So my system D is running on this landscape. We want to change the WSL configuration. So I'm going to first switch user to root so that I don't need to sudo root all the time. Type in my root password, and it's perfectly fine because it is a test environment. And from here, we can then go in and say vi etc hosts first. And we can see the current host name. It took on the host name of my local computer, which is who this. I don't want that host name to be the host name, so I'm just going to go down to this host name. I can press X to take out the current host name, and I can then press I on my keyboard to insert a new host name, and I want to set this to cockpit-WSL. So that's going to be the host name that I want to use. I can press escape to go out of insert mode, hold in shift and press colon, and then right quit WQ and press enter. For now, say cat etc hosts. I can see that the host name has changed. Next, we would need to change our WSL configuration file, which we can also vi. So we'll go vi etc wsl.conf. And from here, we can see the configuration of our system D is set to true. That's why it automatically starts up. I can press I and go into a new line and enter something like network. And for the network that we want the host name to be equal to cockpit-WSL. And then we're going to say generate host equals false. So it doesn't generate a new host name, but it actually uses cockpit WSL as the host name. So I should just type false correctly there. There we go. We can then right quit again. So shift colon WQ to exit. And let's just cat etc wsl.conf to check the configuration. And I'm happy with the configuration. To test that it will actually work, let's do two things. If I now say hostname, currently it does say that the hostname is still who this. If I wanted to temporarily change it, I can say hostname ctl set hostname to cockpit-WSL. And if I now type hostname, I can see that the hostname is in fact now cockpit-WSL. But let's see if the change stays effective if we exit out. So I'll say exit, exit, and remember what we said, if we exit out of our Linux WSL image and it locks us out and we're back in PowerShell, it shuts down the machine. And we can test this by saying WSL space minus L space minus V, and we can see it's already stopped. I'm just going to type clear, and we'll start it again with WSL space minus D, select the name, Control C, right click to paste, or Control V to start it up again. And if everything went right, we should now have the new host name effective. And there we can see the new host name is the correct one. So we can say su space minus to switch user to our root user, and whatever password you used, I just used lowercase Linux. It's normally a good idea to also check, can I run zypper refresh, just to see if I can connect to my repository still, because we have to install a couple of things now. It says all repositories have been refreshed and they're currently up to date. So quite happy with that. Now the next command's pretty long, so I'm going to copy and paste it, but I will have it in the comments of the video. Now that I've pasted it, we're going to run zypper in space minus y, so it will automatically confirm, and in is just for install. And these are all the various different libraries that we need for the installation. And I'm just going to press enter, and it will start installing them. Normally, if you installed SUSE for SAP, which is not an available WSL image, for HANA, all of these would have been available to choose. but because we haven't got it, we needed to install it ourselves. Something that we also need to do before we can continue is we need to check that our uuidd is enabled. So we'll say systemctl enable now uuidd, and we can check it with systemctl status uuidd to see that it is effectively running before we can start the installation. Locally, on my machine, I already have the software available for the installation. So I've got the SAP car file over there, and I've got the SAP HANA Cockpit.sar. Note that I'm using version 16_14 because it still uses SSFS. I am still working on a way to get LLS installed for the newer versions, but right now you'll need to install 16.14, which is perfectly fine for a play environment at this stage. That same file location can be accessed if we go to cd/mnt c HANA_soft. And you can note that this is the same local directory, which is the mount point to the C drive on my local computer to HANA soft. So I don't want to use exactly that same location. So what I'm going to do is I want to create a mount point to it, but to a specific location. So I'm going to say mkdir to make a directory with the name SAP Media or SAP Media. And then from here, I'm going to say mount space -- bind the directory mntc HANA soft, which currently contains our software, to the SAP Media directory. And if I then go to the SAP Media directory, I can see that the link worked because I now have the SAP car file available and the SAP HANA Cockpit file available, which you would need to download with a registered user from SAP yourself. Let's just clear our screen and type ls to see our files that we need to continue further. The next step is we want SAP car to be available anywhere on our OS. A way that we can easily do this is we can say copy permission recursively the program SAP car to our bin directory. And now, doesn't matter where I am on my OS, if I type SAP car, the program would work because it's in a directory that's available in the entire environment of my Linux environment, which is namely my bin directory. Let's go back to our SAP Media directory. And from here, we can then type SAP car minus manifest signature.smf space minus xf. I'm not using verbose because it takes a lot longer to export this directory or to unarchive the directory. Minus R, I'm going to use the opt SAP Cockpit Media directory, which would be a new directory where I'll install from to extract the software to, and I can press enter and I'll wait a few moments for the extraction to complete. Once it's finished extracting the software, we can go to our opt SAP Cockpit Media directory, press ls, and we'll see that we've got our hdb lcm.sh file available. Obviously, so far, if I type who am I have been the root user, so it is important to install any HANA software with the root user. That's non-negotiable. So we'll type /hdblcm.sh and we'll select the first option for install. You can note that the default option is marked in these brackets where it shows the default option was 2, which would have just exit out and do nothing, but option 1 is the installation. If you want to keep the default location active or the default values, you can simply press enter. So I'm happy with the installation path HANA shared, so I'll just press enter on this. Happy with the host name, happy with the system identifier, happy with the instance number for the HANA Cockpit. I do not want to enable encryption because it's just a play test environment. Don't want to enable a data unlock volume encryption, which is things that we can do later once the cockpit is active as well in one of those tiles, which I'll show you in a later video. I don't want to apply size dependent. Oh, I do want to actually apply size dependent resource limits. This is a good idea. So we're just going to use the default value yes. Enter a master password. I'm going to use capital W welcome123 and again capital W for welcome123. You can just type it out. It doesn't show what you're typing. It asks us, do you want to continue? I'll press yes and enter, and the installation will now start. Here we can see that my installation took about 30 minutes to complete. And a couple of things to quickly note. If we go to our user SAP directory, we can see that our files have been created, H4C. We can go to our HANA directory, HANA shared, there we can see H4C data unlock has been created as well. So if we switch user to H4C ADM, and we run HTTP info, the various different services can be seen here, and the HANA database has been started successfully. We can technically connect to this database now. Just a quick note, I normally try to run HTTP stop to start the database, or to stop the database first, and then restart the whole environment, start the whole environment again, run HTTP start, just to show and prove to myself that this database stops and starts successfully. Sometimes things fall through the cracks, so I'm just going to say exit and exit and exit again. I needed to exit 3 times because I exit from the H4C user, exit to exit from the root user, and then exit to exit from the admin user, and then I'm back on the PowerShell. Let's type clear and run WSL space minus L space minus V. I can see I talked so much it's already stopped, so I can start it again with WSL space minus D and the name of the Linux host. And as soon as it started, which only takes a couple of seconds like we can see, I can then go back to my root user, which I normally recommend. If you're the root user, everything should work fine. We can see our hostname is represented correctly. And if I now go to switch user to H4C ADM, I can run HTTP start to start my HANA database, and I can then run HTTP info to check that all the services have started. So all the services are technically still starting up. Every time I run HTTP info, we'll see that this list grows a little bit, and we can see some of the services are still starting up. So we'll have to give it a couple of minutes for all of them to start up. Now, at the end of the installation, it technically gave us all our usernames that we needed and all the links that we needed to connect to the host. But I didn't note those down. You can note them down with your installation, but what you can also do is, now that my services are starting up, or hopefully have started up already, I can run xs login, and it will then ask me for a username to log in with. I can type in cockpit_admin for the username, and the password should be my welcome123 password with a capital W. And there we can see it authenticated me and connected me to my XS engine, XS Advanced Engine, for my applications where the HANA Cockpit applications are installed. And I can then run XS space apps pipe grep web dash app to retrieve the URLs, and I can see both the URLs have started. There's the URL for my HANA Cockpit admin, and there's the URL for the normal HANA Cockpit. Before we connect to the HANA Cockpit with the admin URL first, we would need to fix the network connection from our local machine to the WSL image by resolving the new hostname cockpit-WSL correctly. So what I can do is I can run IP space A, and once I run IP space A, I can see that the IP from the Ethernet 0 that's been given to this system is 172.20.196.89, and I can use this IP address, start up Notepad on my local machine. So just to show you, on my local machine you can go to Windows System32 drivers etc on your Windows host and select all files, and then open the hosts file. You'll need to open Notepad as an administrator if you want to save to this Notepad. And we can enter this IP address in there and then give it a specific host name for the URL, which is cockpit-WSL. And once I've now saved it, so I'll go File Save, and you can close that. It would have now saved this file, and I should be able to connect to it. I can then open up my guest browser and maybe just select this URL. So let me just highlight it and Control C to copy it and paste it into my browser and perform my first connection. It then states that my connection is not private. I can select advance and proceed because it just has to do with the certificates that's not trusted. I can then enter the username, which is cockpit_admin, and the password, which is welcome123, and press log on. And the first time you log on, it will say you are not authorized. It needs to assign certain authorizations, role collections automatically to the cockpit admin user. We'll simply press the yes button to do so. It says the roles have now been assigned to you, so we can say OK, and we can then try to log in again, cockpit_admin, and the password welcome123 with a capital W, and there I have now successfully logged into the cockpit manager. Just a quick couple of additional notes. On your local network, you'll notice that if you type \\WSL $, that it will show you all the WSL images, and you can freely navigate the file system of these images. If the host was stopped, mine is currently started, by navigating these file systems, it will automatically start the file systems again. So you can technically go and navigate any of these file systems and see the exact files that have been created by your installation on your local Windows machine. Another thing that you can do is you can navigate to your actual package, the file, all the files that are located on your machine where it's currently being stored on your local machine, by going to update our local packages. A shortcut route that you can use to go to this directory is by entering %local app data %packages, and then just going to the file that contains SUSE Linux Enterprise with the name, in this case, 15 support package stack 6. And we can actually just go right click and say, for instance, properties, and we can see exactly how much space is being used by this image after HANA Cockpit has been installed. And currently it's using about 40 gigs of disk space. Another thing to note is, while I'm in my system, I'm just going to connect with the root user, and I type free space -h, that my system is currently using about 13 gigs of RAM. You can set these settings. I'll maybe do a video later on WSL itself, but we can see it's using 13 gigs of RAM just to run. It can technically use a little bit less, but HANA Cockpit with its services is a little bit more power hungry than the HANA Express database would be, which uses about 4 gigs of RAM. So 4 gigs of RAM is not too much. But in total, your machine would probably need about 16 gigs of RAM minimum to be able to run it, but probably a little bit more to ensure that you can have the HANA Cockpit. Just for the HANA Express, about 4 gigs of RAM should be enough. I'll see you in the next video. A quick thank you to our sponsor, Schumann and Brink LLC, or SAB LLC. You can go to their domain by typing the link sabllc.co, not .com, just.co. They have branches in the US, South Africa, and the Netherlands, and they can help you with all your SAP consulting needs.